Roll Tide, and welcome to Crimson Tide Rewind, live from Baumhower's Victory Grille in Vestavia Hills, presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health, who reminds Alabama, don't wait, vaccinate. Roll Tide, everyone. This is Roger Hoover alongside former Alabama linebacker Cory Reamer. And Cory Reamer, the final score from Tuscaloosa Saturday, Alabama 41, Georgia 34.
Yeah, how about that? Not the way we expected it to end after watching that first half, but what an incredible game. Easily the best game of the season in college football so far. Just an exciting matchup, and we got to see what both of these teams are about. You got to give a lot of credit to Georgia fighting to get back in that ball game, but how impressive was Alabama's offense in that first half, really in that first quarter, putting 21 points up on the board. It's something that, you know, we were through the first three games, there's a lot of conversation of like they're holding back the playbook. Are they actually opening it up? What are we going to look like against a solid defense? And coming out and punched Georgia right in the mouth and had them really looking like deer in the headlights trying to figure out what was going on. And they regrouped at halftime, but it was awesome to see the playmakers that we had on offense and on the defensive side of the ball really shutting down Carson Beck, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and limiting them to hardly any offense at all and no touchdowns. Also turning the ball over a bunch, which they had not done. I don't think they committed any turnovers so far this season. And we came out pretty early and really just ruffled their feathers up pretty good.
So the Crimson Tide get out to that 28-0 lead in that ball game, and it was a great first drive for Alabama. Really, everything went to plan. But then after that, another good drive. I mean, what do you make of this Crimson Tide offense being able to be still that explosive? Because we've been talking about it for a few games that, yes, Alabama is able to score quickly, but to do it against Georgia's defense to begin the game, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I think this had a lot to do with, you know, Kirby and Glenn Schumann, their defensive coordinator, coming into this game not really sure what to expect. And I think what you find out is that it is really hard to game plan against a guy like Jalen Milroe that is at quarterback, who Kirby said after the game, this is one of the best running backs in the country. Oh, yeah, but he can also throw it as well. I mean, that's just impossible to game plan for. And then you add in Ryan Williams and the explosiveness of him at the receiver position. I think it's just one of these offenses that for any team that you face, it's going to be really hard to go out there and man up one-on-one, man-to-man coverage, or just, you know, Joes versus Joes trying to match up against these guys, because there's so much that you have to take into consideration for this offense. But seeing them being able to do it in 4 straight drives, putting 21 points up in the first quarter, I knew we were explosive. I didn't know that we would be able to do it as consistently, because we talked about it last week. The key to the game was, you know, if we had a few 3-and-outs and Georgia scores and maybe we get behind, but don't let that affect you too much, because we have the ability to score quickly. I don't know if I expected us to be able to score that quickly, and Georgia looking up and trying to figure out how they got down 21-0. This was just a fun game to watch from an offensive standpoint and a defensive standpoint, except for that fourth quarter.
Except for the fourth quarter, but again, Alabama had the last laugh. We'll talk all about the game-winning touchdown play, first of all, from Jalen Milroe to Ryan Williams, and also about the interception by Zabian Brown that helped seal the victory for the Crimson Tide. And we want to hear from you. We want to hear you still celebrating this win over Georgia. Give us a call at 877-202-BAMA, 877-202-2262. We'll be taking your calls coming up for the next hour as we're with you from Vestavia Hills, Alabama. This is Crimson Tide Rewind, and this is Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
They'll go on the handoff. It'll be Haynes left side, 20, 25, still on his feet, 30, cutting it back, 35, and ahead to the 40-yard line. What a nice move. Justice Haynes picking up 24 yards on that first down carry.
Keep up with everything Alabama with the Alabama Crimson Tide mobile app presented by Cadence Bank. It's available at the App Store and Google Play. Download the Alabama Crimson Tide mobile app now for free. Again, for the next hour, we're going to talk about Alabama against Georgia. We are going to look ahead to the Crimson Tide against the Vanderbilt Commodores coming up on Saturday as well. But we mostly want to hear from you. We are taking your phone calls. The number to call, 877-202-BAMA. Our first call tonight comes from here in Birmingham. Let's go to Mike, who joins us now. Roll Tide, Mike.
Bama try to keep it that way. King gets a snap. Time. Throws.
Don't hear Mike just yet. We do hear Chris Stewart. Roll Tide, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to hear his voice.
Let's see. Can we try Mike in Birmingham once again? All right, we'll try to get him in our next segment. I imagine I know what Mike wants to talk about.
Yeah.
Again, a great win against the Georgia Bulldogs. And, Cory, there is a really good path forward for this Crimson Tide football team, starting with what's coming up on Saturday.
He's going to let us know. But this win definitely makes it a little bit easier going towards the 12-team playoff. And I think that, with the rest of the teams that we have on the schedule, we got a pretty good, pretty tough schedule, especially with Tennessee, Oklahoma. We saw them this past weekend against getting a win down in Auburn. But, we don't know how. That's the hard part about this 12-team playoff is we don't know what they're looking at. And there's so many different ways that they rank. It's not just the top-ranked 12 teams that get into this playoff. I think that the SEC's got a really good shot at getting multiple teams, probably 3, 4, 5 even potentially teams in this 12-team playoff. But winning as many games, everybody was concerned about the regular season not meaning as much. You tell anybody that was in that stadium on Saturday that game didn't mean something and that both teams wanted to win. I think that this definitely opens up a lot of opportunities for Alabama. But you come away with the win. Georgia comes away with the loss. I think Georgia, the way that they fought back to get into this game, ended up taking the lead in the fourth quarter, and then Alabama ultimately securing the victory. Even the committee's going to look at that as a favorable loss. If it was, if they end up losing by 28, 30-something points, maybe the committee looks at Georgia completely differently. But I think you look at both of these teams, you take into the account the elements of this game. It was in Tuscaloosa, and the adjustments that Georgia made at halftime to come back into this ball game, that was a quality win. Even though we made it look easy in the first half, you got to play 2 halves of football, and it's a good Georgia team. So we'll see if the rest of the schedule works out for this Alabama team. But I think they definitely have an easier shot of getting Georgia behind them. This was the ultimate game for Kalen DeBoer in his first season. Everybody was watching this one. They had this one circled. All right, let's see what this coaching staff and this new roster looks like if they're for real. And they definitely put a trademark on this season so far.
Certainly have. Off to a great 4-0 start and 1-0 in the SEC. Again, we're going to take your calls, 877-202-BAMA, the number to dial. Hope to talk to Mike when we return coming up in just a moment. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Boy, is this place loud. He'll swing it out left side. Picked off, Bama. Brought down inside the 25, but Bama jumps the round, gets the pick. A takeaway by Damani Jackson, and the Tide will try to add to its 14-0 lead early.
Tonight's first question brought to you by J&J Apparel. J&J Apparel, your trusted source for Bama gear. New Alabama hats, t-shirts, and polos arriving daily. Visit online at jnjapparel.net or shop their retail store at 1926 University Boulevard in downtown Tuscaloosa. RTR with J&J. Once again, we want to go to the phone lines. Mike from Birmingham, I think we've got you now. Roll Tide, Mike.
Roll Tide, General Roll Tide. And that's the headline on the television would say, oh, Bama Stewart, they turned them Bulldogs into little sick puppies on Saturday night. Let me tell you something. They could have what they call this, 2-minute drill, what have you, time consuming drive, try to get a field goal range. Then the middle road, hey, he just took down himself to launch a missile and found the target. Brother Williams caught that pass. He just spun around 2 defenders, got the go-ahead touchdown, and the other number 2 picked it up late in the game. That's something about that twist. It's still symbolic because David Powell won that too. He turned things around in the 90s. I'm telling you, this team is headed for greatness. They're headed for a national title. They're heading for it, man. I can feel it. They're going to take it to the 12-team playoff format. They're going to take it all the way, guys. Bama doing it up, but Roll Tide and Georgia, y'all playing a good game, probably a good fight, but in the end, Bama said, hey, 30 for 30 seconds, that's long enough. We get the lead back, we got it. We won it, and we're going to keep it going, Bama. Keep it going, Roll Tide. We take on Bama, let's keep it going, Bama. Keep it going. Roll Tide again. Woo!
Roll Tide. Thank you, Mike.
Man, I wish I could live every day like he does. He's so excited. It's awesome. It's
Mike and Damian Square, our Cooks Pest Control sideline reporter. I mean, very similar when they get energized and
Absolutely.
Get ready to go.
They get keep it rolling. I mean, He's not wrong though. This team has proved, this past weekend that they definitely have something special. This was, a lot of us were waiting to see what happened with what this team was going to look like throughout this year, and I don't know if this stadium could have been any louder in that first half, especially in that first quarter. We've all just been, as soon as Coach Saban retired and Kalen DeBoer was announced as being the next coach, everybody's just kind of been waiting for this moment. This was the moment for him to kind of go out there and shine. And we just saw, his style of coaching and what we've seen through 3 games so far. There was some question marks, things didn't go smoothly, but then you come out there and you have the success that you have against a quality opponent. This gives you a lot to be excited about for the rest of the season.
It certainly does, and the Crimson Tide will try and keep this momentum going coming up on Saturday in Nashville against Vanderbilt. And if you're going to Nashville for this Saturday's game, be sure to stop by the Kung Fu Saloon at 1921 Division Street in Nashville for the official Alabama on-location pregame party. It's presented by the Crimson Tide Sports Marketing Group. The event is 21 plus, no cover charge. It will start at 12:30 p.m. Come watch the early games, listen to live music while getting ready to watch the Tide roll into the Music City. That's the official Alabama on-location pregame party presented by Crimson Tide Sports Marketing at the Kung Fu Saloon, 1921 Division Street in Nashville. Roll Tide. Coming up, we'll head to Pace, Florida to talk to Parker coming up in a moment. We are still taking your calls. The number to dial, 877-202-BAMA. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Beck with plenty of time. Fires, intercepted, picked off. Alabama, John Campbell. He gets it inside the 30 and down to the 25. Bama defense takes it away as Campbell caught it, picked it off, taking it away from Beck and the Bulldogs, and Bama is knocking on the doghouse again.
If you'd like to be part of our show, make sure you submit your question to us on the Alabama Media Group Twitter line at UA_CTSN, brought to you by AL.com, your source for SEC sports. Right now, we will go right back to the phones. We will go to Pace, Florida, where Parker joins us now. Roll Tide, Parker.
Roll Tide, Roger and Cory. How are you all doing tonight?
Great, buddy. How are you?
I'm fantastic. 17 years old? 17? Talking about
Ryan Williams, man, 17
Ryan
years old.
Williams,
it's incredible.
Running it back in. Ryan Williams for Heisman. What do y'all think?
I think he's got a pretty good argument right now.
He did win an award today.
Oh, what's that?
SEC Freshman of the Week.
Oh, man. Is that like every week?
I think it's the Ryan Williams Award at this point. And also, congratulations, Roll Tide, to Jalen Milroe, your SEC Offensive Player of the Week.
I think it's going to be hard to choose between the two of them of who's obviously, I think I saw something at halftime that Jalen's Heisman odds had jumped tremendously just from that first half of play. I mean, he went from the betting favorite as to win the Heisman after what they did in that first half against Georgia. So, I think what you're seeing from Jalen is absolutely – it's fun to see the evolution. And Coach Saban even talked about it a little bit on game day this weekend. He made the comment, the first half of last season. Just think about a year ago. This is a guy that got benched, that did not even play against South Florida, and turns around and has a tremendous second half, leads them to the playoffs last year. But you could just tell that this coaching staff has done a tremendous job of calling the plays that are most effective for Jalen, where he's more comfortable going out there, using his feet, and he's made tremendous strides. We all knew that he's been able to throw the deep ball. We saw that last year. He's really good at short game routes as well. But his decision-making and being able to work the middle part of the field, those intermediate routes, has come so far. I can't overstate that enough. He's come so far from what he was last year, how much improvement there was. And, we didn't see that in the first quarter because it was just big play after big play after big play. But later in the game, not having those huge, those massive plays, him working the middle of the field, being able to read the routes, finding those guys that are open. And even from the first 3 games that we've had this season, we hadn't seen much from him in that standpoint. But what he did on Saturday from that area was incredible. He's made so much of an improvement. It's fun to watch. But Ryan Williams for Heisman, Jalen Milroe for Heisman. We're happy to support any of them.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have. A couple of notes on Jalen Milroe from Alabama's Director of Media Relations, Alex Thompson. 18 touchdowns for Milroe so far this year in only 4 games of action. That's 10 passing, 8 rushing touchdowns. His 18 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion have led to 110 points. That's the 3rd best total in the nation. Also, Milroe's 8 rushing touchdowns tied for the national lead among quarterbacks, and he is one of only 24 quarterbacks with at least 10 passing touchdowns. You spoke to it. Kirby Smart spoke to it as well. How do you defend this guy?
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible. What are you going to do? You try to play cover 2. You put 2 guys on top of Ryan Williams. It just opens you up for more Jalen Milroe design runs. You try to go man-to-man on Ryan Williams. You put more people in the box to stop Jalen. Then you're just setting yourself up for one-on-one matchups against Ryan Williams. And we saw, Georgia try to do that multiple times, and you could tell that Jalen's got the freedom at the line of scrimmage to make the decision when he sees a matchup that he likes, especially if you've got Ryan Williams in a one-on-one situation with no help over the top. He can go to him immediately, and he went to him a number of times this past Saturday. This is different from what we're used to seeing from Jalen, of having probably some scheduled throws. This was, hey, let's look and see what the defense is going to give us. We like this matchup. Let's go 3 by 1. Ryan Williams solo on one side, 3 receivers on the other, and let's get him in those matchups that are preferable, because there's not a you might have a couple of corners that are out there in the country that could probably line up against him and shut him down consistently. But you start throwing those 50-50 balls up there. We talked about it on the postgame. The most impressive thing is Jalen's not just throwing it up either. Yeah. I mean, he's throwing it to the right spots. He's throwing it on the back shoulders. He's throwing it maybe a little bit short where Ryan Williams has got to work back to it. He's throwing Ryan Williams open, but Ryan Williams is also doing a phenomenal job of going up there and competing. The easy catches are one thing where he doesn't have to fight for the football, but a number of them on Saturday were contested catches. And for him to be able to go up and come down with that football it just shows how far along this 17-year-old is. And I was thinking about it today is this the new era of football player that we have? These kids that have grown up playing 7-on-7, a lot more the focus of, flag football, 7-on-7. Some of the stuff that he did on Saturday looks like he's out there playing flag football. It's like if he just tries to keep people from even getting a hand on him. He doesn't like, at 165 pounds, I wouldn't like contact either, but he's really good at avoiding it. And it's just like, is this the new wave of how football is being taught and what the way that they're playing coming up? But it sure is fun to watch.
And how good are his hands? I mean, that one play where he kept the ball up forever, you never see that.
No, I mean, I did 10 out of 10 difficulty level of him coming down with that football for sure. 12 out of 10. Being able to contort his body the way that he does, that catch where ball's tipped and he finds a way to and stay on his feet. That's the other thing. And then the other one late in the fourth quarter where he just does a sidestep and 2 Georgia defenders run into each other. I thought this guy's like Gumby. I don't even know if you're old enough to remember that cartoon,
yes.
But he looks like Gumby. The way that he can bend his body and move it on this, as fast as he can too, and he's explosive on his first step. I mean, this guy's just got. We've got a really good crop of young football players in college football, and it's hard to tell me that we've lost a step or that college football is not as entertaining, because what we saw on Saturday night, especially from Jalen and Ryan Williams, is absolutely incredible.
Certainly was a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun tonight here at Baumhower's. Make sure you come here in Vestavia Hills for the 2 Monday night football games that are coming up. And Baumhower's Victory Grill, it's always ready for football. It is always ready for fun and great food. Your big game headquarters all season long. With more than 60 televisions dialed to your favorite team's games, you'll never miss a play of the action. If you're going to the big game, visit your local Baumhower's before or after for legendary fun, legendary food, and legendary celebrations. We'll continue with Crimson Tide Rewind in a moment. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Snap going to Milroe. Looking deep downfield. Looking for Williams. Comes back, makes the catch. Trying to split defenders. Makes them bang into each other. Stays on his feet. Breaks a tackle. Scores! 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 Ryan Williams. One play. 75 yards. 4 plus 2 equals 6. And Alabama regains the lead.
Love that call from Chris Stewart as Alabama regained the lead. It just happened just that fast.
Yeah,
just
one play.
After Georgia got the lead, Alabama's got it right back.
Yeah, Alabama fans were probably melting in their chairs after that Georgia scored and actually took the lead after giving up a 30-7 lead. You could just tell in that second half, Alabama's offense really wasn't having the same success. Georgia came out at halftime, made a lot of good adjustments, and then, it will take one play. If that's what it takes, that's how this offense is running right now. It's incredible.
Certainly is. So now we go back to the phones. Joe from Hartselle joins us now as we have once again, we always ask you to submit your questions to us on the Alabama Media Group Twitter line at UA_CTSN. Brought to you by AL.com, your source for SEC sports. But right now to the phones to Hartselle where Joe joins us now. Roll Tide, Joe.
Yes, sir. Roll Tide, guys. Hey, just to add to Ryan Williams, if he keeps putting up numbers like he did in the first 4 games this year, with the competition we got the rest of the year with LSU, Ole Miss, even Auburn, and especially Tennessee, guys, he could finish in the top 10 easy for Heisman and maybe even be invited to New York along with Jalen. Let's just see what happens, guys.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think he's got a pretty good shot at getting the invite, which is crazy how fast it changes. I remember not that long ago that freshmen were never even considered. But you just look around, it's probably the 2 of the best wide receivers in college football this year are true freshmen. You got the kid from Ohio State, and then you got Ryan Williams. And even on the defensive side of the ball, how many freshmen on both sides for just us that are contributing significant roles? When we were freshmen, you came in and you maybe didn't get redshirted and you got to play some special teams, but that was really about it. These kids show up and they're ready to play. I don't know how much we talk about him so much every single week, but it's hard not to. I mean, the first, this entire game was littered with highlight reels and catches from him in the entire game. And every game seems to be that way. He's a special player. I hear a lot of comparisons. I would say that it would be hard to argue against that. Alabama is definitely not one of the top, wide receiver universities over the last 10 to 15 years. And no disrespect to anybody that's come before Ryan Williams. What he's doing as a freshman is still unprecedented. As good as a lot of these receivers that we've had in the past are, he just is a special talent.
Special talent, special starts of the season for the Crimson Tide. Alabama a perfect 4-0 and now 1-0 in SEC play. We'll continue with Crimson Tide Rewind. It's presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health, who reminds Alabama, don't wait, vaccinate. Back with more in a moment. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Beck looking, firing towards the end zone. That is intercepted. It's picked off. It's picked off. Intercepted. Alabama gets the pick. The interception is made. Alabama getting Xavier Brown with the interception. And the Crimson Tide takes it away with 43 seconds remaining.
Xavier Brown with that interception, helping the Crimson Tide clinch victory against Georgia 41-34. The final score from Saturday at Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. This season, stay cool when you purchase a limited edition Alabama Yeti. These vintage Yeti cups are only available at Champions Lane and program stands all around Saban Field. Elevate your game day with Yeti. And we just heard the highlight call, and I encourage all of you who haven't seen it yet, make sure you follow us on our social media platforms at UA_CTSN to see the Yay Alabama booth cam reaction. You heard Tyler Watts really excited about the interception. So excited, not only he kind of jumped over Chris a little bit on the call, but I guess he realized that, so he threw his headset off so he could celebrate more.
Hey, I saw the clip. It is definitely worth a watch to go back and see Tyler's reaction. You could tell how focused he was on that play. And then all of a sudden the headset goes flying. You can hear it through the broadcast as well. You just hear it tumbling all over the place. And both of them, I mean, every right to be excited. After watching what happened, I can't remember what we were up. It was, 33-15. And then watching it slowly, you could feel it building.
And all those fourth downs.
Yeah, all those fourth downs. And I think that's probably one of the takeaways if you're a defensive, one of the defensive coaches or takeaways from this game from the defensive side of the ball is I think there was some exposure from us, allowing some plays and not being able to get off the field as well as we played early. We brought a lot of blitzes early. We were really getting in Carson Beck's, in his lap and put a lot of pressure on him, causes some errant throws, some interceptions, some turnovers. And then in that fourth quarter, watching it slowly, how fast they were able to come out there, which is tough. If you're on the defensive side of the ball and you're going out there and you know that their offense they already have in their mind they're going for it on fourth down. They got 4 downs to convert, and they're going after it no matter what. That's tough for a defense to get off the field because they're throwing haymakers after haymakers. They know they've got to do something drastic just to get in that ball game. And if it doesn't happen, then it is what it is. They just turn the ball over. The game's already out of hand no matter what. But when you're just unleashing everything at this defense, it is hard to stand up and just keep these guys out of the end zone. We, as fans, we were hoping that we could have gotten a couple stops. And even after creating that fumble turnover in the fourth quarter, not being able to put some points on the board to put this game away puts this defense in tough spots because the offense was also going out there and not even getting first downs, not really helping out this defense much. You're coming on the sideline, you get 3 plays of rest, and you got to go right back out there and play again. And they're just going to be taking deep shot after deep shot, big play after big play. It was a lot to ask of this defense who played so well in that first half through pretty much three quarters. But Georgia's got, like we said, he's got one of the best quarterbacks, and they're a great team with plenty of athletes. So you knew they've got playmakers out there, and they found themselves getting back in this game. But that interception after Xavier Brown, they had gone after him. They were kind of attacking him in that fourth quarter, and they were having a lot of success on that against him as well. But all it takes is just one throw and make it one stop. That was a huge interception, and Tyler's reaction was absolutely golden. I loved it.
Well, and it kind of reminds you of, teams going after, Texas last year going after Caleb Downs, and that led to him being much better. Terry and Arnold got targeted a lot during the 22 Tennessee game, played great against the Vols the next year. Sometimes that happens and allows players to get better.
And I said it last week, playing as a freshman wide receiver is one thing. Playing as a freshman corner is an absolutely different animal. It is one of the toughest spots to be on the field. You're going out there, all eyes are on you. When you make a mistake, everybody knows it. You wide receiver, you drop a ball, whatever. It's, play the next play. But if you're the corner and you allow some big catches against you, everybody's focus is on you. So kudos to Xavier Brown for answering the bell when it mattered the most. And I think, when you get them, we got Georgia into kind of a squeeze field. When they had all this room to work with for the fourth quarter, it's really hard to play, especially as a freshman when you're adjusting to the speed of the game and trying to find the football. But, for us, having that condensed field, him being able to keep his eyes on the receiver but also turning back and see the quarterback helped him make that play on that football. Absolutely incredible. He didn't back down from it. It was a great play.
Certainly was for the Crimson Tide, as again Alabama picks up this 41-34 win against Georgia. And again, I feel like I joined the network in 2014 after working at a few other schools. I can't remember an in-game atmosphere here in Tuscaloosa since I joined the network that was quite like this. I think it's one of the best games I've ever been to, and it's certainly the loudest I've ever heard.
Yeah, and you got to give a lot of credit to these fans. We got there probably 5.5 hours, 6 hours before kickoff. And obviously there were some external factors that created a little bit more of a sense of urgency of getting in the stadium. And a lot of people were down there a lot earlier than they probably would have been. But I think even without those, this would have easily been one of the best environments in college football. And Bryant-Denny Stadium did not disappoint at all this weekend. I think that coming out and having such a start that we did really lit the crowd up for the rest of the game. And it was just, you just know you're going to be in for a 12-round fight when you got Georgia. They're just a good team. They're not going to go away easily. It's a learning lesson for this team that you can't take your foot off the gas when you've got a team on the ropes like we had them. But you got to be, this is, for them to respond the way that they did when Georgia took the lead says a lot about the maturity level of this team and the faith that they have. And I know there's a lot of question marks, too, about time management from the coaching staff towards the end of that game, snapping the football with 20 seconds left on the play clock when the clock is running and not trying to burn more of that clock. There's some things that everybody can take away from this game, and you maybe would hope that we could have eaten up that time. But at the same time, if we would have done that, would we had enough time to get the ball back to answer? And Georgia might have been able to score on the last few plays and finish the ball game off. So there's some give and takes here. There's a lot of learning lessons, but I think that the staff and these players were absolutely incredible. They responded to the environment. They definitely fed off of it. I know as a player, having that kind of atmosphere is something that you'll never forget. I mean, it is a special game that they'll always remember.
Great win for the Crimson Tide, but more football still to be played as we turn the calendar to October. We'll talk more about that when we return. You're listening to Crimson Tide Rewind, live from Baumhower's Victory Grille in Vestavia Hills. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
And will Georgia use the timeout? Nope, they're waving the white flag. The final 30 seconds are going to tick off, and once they do, let's get out of here. Alabama 41, Georgia 34, and in the first meeting of the year, Alabama comes out a winner 9 times out of the last 10.
Prescription for Success, presented by Payless Drugs. Payless Drugs, your locally owned family pharmacy with 4 locations in Birmingham. Payless can handle your prescriptions, over-the-counter solutions, and home delivery. Payless at mynewpharmacy.com. So again, we're still celebrating this win for Alabama against Georgia. But Cory, we do have to think about what's ahead, starting with this Saturday's game. The Vanderbilt Commodores come in 2-2 on the year, 0-1 in the SEC. They were very nearly 1-0 in the SEC against Mizzou a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, they gave Missouri all they wanted to. That was a game that everybody thought that Missouri was going to run away with. But Vanderbilt has been one of those surprise teams this year, coming out first week, beating Virginia Tech, and then dropping one that they shouldn't have dropped, and then giving Missouri all they want. This is not the Vanderbilt that we're accustomed to seeing. They've got a quarterback that's out there making a lot of plays, kind of similar, a little bit different than Jalen Milroe, but using the same strategy of using his feet and his arm to go out there. And he's a competitor. He's a guy that goes. He's found a way to get this Vanderbilt team to win some ball games that they probably weren't expected to win for sure.
We, of course, have Todd Robbins as our producer who works in the building at the Mount Moore Athletic Facility, and he showed us that this football team is staying focused and trying to avoid not only rat poisons but just rat traps.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a perfect setup for a trap game. You're coming off an emotional win. Required all the energy that you could possibly have. You got to turn around. You got another SEC opponent that's on the road, and you can't look too far ahead. You got to be able to respond. It's kind of similar to what we saw on Saturday. Just because you did really well in the first half, it doesn't mean the ball game's over. You can't start celebrating too early because you see what happens. Any team in this league can come out and beat you. You saw what happens in the second half, and this is another example of that where you've got to be able to enjoy the win on Saturday, come in on Sunday, and get ready to go. You got to put this behind you. And what Chris said, I think, was spot on as well, is for the first time. Yeah. I think that this is easily a team from this past Saturday that we're going to see again in the Georgia Bulldogs. Maybe in Atlanta. If not in Atlanta, maybe we see them in the playoffs. There's an opportunity for us to play Georgia 3 times in a single year. And I know Georgia fans are just chomping at the bit to get another opportunity to play us. But this next one is important. You got to be able to go out there and build on what you did this past weekend, fix a lot of the mistakes that were made. And we just talked about what those were from a defensive standpoint. You can't be able to give up these big plays, and you got to be able to play 4 quarters. You can't look at the scoreboard and be comfortable with what you've done so far because the game's never over. There's always opportunities for these teams to get back involved, and there's plenty to build on. As much fun as it was, I would have been fine if the game ended at halftime at 30-7. Yes. That'd been awesome. And it saved us a lot of heartache. But this is something that we can definitely improve on for the next one, and Saturday's a perfect opportunity for it. Welcome to the SEC. It's only getting more difficult. We keep adding teams, and everybody's getting better. It's you can't count on these wins like you used to.
Don't really have time to go through everything that's coming up in SEC football, but speaking with Georgia as well, any concern for them going home to take on Auburn next week? We know the Tigers are certainly reeling.
Yeah, I think that Georgia's going to be they've got to do the same thing. You coming off a tough loss, I think that what they're able to build on, though, is the fact that they did not give up. That looked like, and it felt like from a fan's perspective, this game was over and done with. There's no chance that Georgia finds a way to give us any type of fight in the second half. Next thing you know, they've got the lead with less than 3 minutes left to go in the ball game. Carson Beck looked like a deer in the headlights in that first half, and the way that they came out and played in the second half, you got to be excited about as a Georgia fan and as this team. It's like, all right, boys, we got hit and we responded, and now we've got to continue to do that. This is learning process for them as well, to go in there to be ready to go from the very first whistle. I don't think there's a lot to be concerned with. The way that they were able to make plays and the way that offense looked, I think they had 17 plays of over 20 yards passes from Carson Beck, and all of them probably came in that second half. They've got plenty of talent. They're going to be tough. They're going to find themselves in this 12-team playoff for sure.
Alabama against Vanderbilt coming up on Saturday in Nashville. More on that when we return for our final segment coming up in just a moment. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. What's on tap next for Bama is brought to you by Bud Light. Bud Light, proud sponsor of Alabama Athletics. It is easy to drink. It is easy to enjoy, and we certainly hope we enjoy Alabama's upcoming game on Saturday against the Vanderbilt Commodores. Don't forget, kickoff is set for 3:15. Our radio coverage across the network will start at noon in Nashville as Alabama tries to improve to 5-0.
Yeah, we definitely got our work cut out for us. Like we just talked about, Vanderbilt is one of those teams that's not going to just roll over. This is going to be an environment that typically the road team always shows up and outnumbers the home crowd. But we've seen this Vanderbilt team play well. We've got to be ready to go this upcoming Saturday, and we've got a tough schedule ahead. So plenty to build on. Enjoyed this win. This was a huge one. This is a stepping stone for, welcome to the SEC for Kalen DeBoer, which we were excited about. I was just really pumped to see how animated he got on the sidelines on Saturday. I think that probably made Alabama fans just as happy as getting this win. Just seeing him get so animated with the referees, some of the calls that didn't go the way that he thought they should, and really let his temperament get elevated. I mean, it was something that we hadn't seen from him. He's been this laid-back kind of guy. He's taken everything in stride, and all of a sudden in this game on Saturday, he realized what it meant. And to see that was a lot of fun for me as a player, because you just didn't know how these players were responding to him. But I was excited to see that, and he came back down pretty quickly. The post-game press conference, he wasn't too mad about some of those things, but it was fun to watch.
Certainly was. So again, the Crimson Tide, that was a special Saturday we just had in Tuscaloosa with a win against Georgia. Now we just got to keep it going this Saturday against Vanderbilt. But Cory, we're going to talk all about it coming up next week with Crimson Tide Rewind right back here at 6 p.m. here at Vestavia Hills, Baumhowers, and then plenty of programming coming up throughout the week as well. Should be a fun week.
I'm looking forward to it. Roll Tide.
He's Cory Reamer. I'm Roger Hoover, and that is going to do it for tonight's edition of Crimson Tide Rewind. It's presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health, live from here at Baumhower's Victory Grille in Vestavia Hills. Want to remind you as well, as if you missed any portion of tonight's show, you can always catch it on demand on the Alabama Insider Podcast. Download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget, this week we have Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, Tuesday and Thursday at 2 o'clock, streaming on all of our social media platforms. And then Wednesday, Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show at 6 p.m. from Baumhower's in Tuscaloosa. We look forward to that as well. Cooper Rollins back at our Learfield studios, engineer-producer Todd Robbins and Cory Reamer. I'm Roger Hoover saying thanks for listening, and Roll Tide.